Right, so welcome, John. And John Wiley was on the ground in Paris at the Quantum Security Defense 2026. What makes his perspective most valuable is that he's got a background in cybersecurity, PQC, blockchain, entrepreneurship. It's a long chain, and I would, yeah, recommend you look at his profile. But the highlight is that he's got a mindset of a U.S. Marine, and so he can read the room not just for excitement, but for the signals and the consequences, and that's what makes this debrief very important. He was there with policymakers and stakeholders. So, John, thank you for serving as eyes, ears, and legs at Paris for the community.
No, no problem at all. It was a pleasure to be there.
Right, so it's our first question. What was the room really optimizing for? Technology, maturity, regulatory, or what exactly was the optimization as you read in the room?
I mean, I think from the people that were there that attended, I'd say it was some of the top people I've been able to introduce in the quantum space, especially on an international level. So you had people from different backgrounds, different countries, but each one brought different mindsets and knowledge, which was great to hear of what's going on in their spaces. So it covered from technology, maturity, procurement readiness, regulatory positioning was big on the regulatory side, um, alliance politics and vendor visibility. I think they touched on all those areas in a great way that wasn't kind of overwhelming, but was just enough, what I like to say, nuggets, right? Just enough information to give you, okay, wow, that's what's going on, or that's what they're focused on. So each one of the person that was presenting or on the panels kind of brought some insight that was everybody got value out of, right? Which was the great thing. And
Hmm.
everyone in the room wanted to share with others, right? It wasn't about holding back the information. It was like, hey, here's the things. What are you doing, right? So it was really a good collaboration or collaboratory type of environment.
Right, no follow-up. Going to the second question. With DG Connect shown on the program, it spoke directly on PQC and on quantum for security and defense. What did you learn about Europe's current posture? And we are taking advantage of your security background to get the call signals here.
No, I think they are really putting together a great strategy, right? I think they had a methodology. It was like act early, scale fast methodology, right? So now they're really focused on the right regulatory things in place as things start to speed up. And I know that's huge, but also the funding landscape. You're really starting to put like a blended approach from public and private capital. So I think that's what's been slowing things down or advancement for companies to really get pushing forward. So they're really looking at a collaboratory way to do that, but also putting the right steps in place to make it easy for other companies or new companies to get funded and find that support that they need. Um, that support in the beginning is going to be huge. I think with quantum in any country you're in, right, is from that government and private sector, right? If both of them are colliding, combining in that strategy, you start to really build that solid ecosystem that's supported, and everybody's not off running and doing their own thing.
Right, so now we're going to shift focus from Europe and the event to Africa. So, where is Africa most structurally exposed if this market hardens fast? And what actually clears a procurement bar in the next, let's say within this year or next 12 months?
If you're, I mean, I think with Africa, it's really, one finding or that solid, building a solid ecosystem where you have support from the government. You also have private investment, but also it's the talent, right?
Hmm.
Now you're starting to see this talent gap, right? Or who are the right people that they need, who needs to be, you know, upskilled, right? Especially on the cybersecurity side, as getting those people that are already in cybersecurity upskilled in the PQC space. One thing I really found out from some of the panelists was that PQC is really not going to be this quick thing, right? It's not this quick thing as, hey, next 6, 7 months, we're going to implement it. It's going to take years, right, to really do it. And to do that, there's a lot of education that comes up front, a lot of preparedness, right? But also understanding what goes into that, those step-by-step approaches of understanding my cryptography footprint, who needs do we have everything? Are we working with the right vendors or experts to help us move forward in that aspect, right? I think when it comes to Africa, it's making sure either you have the right international or cross-border relationships to help support that, but also invigorating kind of the talent pool of, hey, here are the job demands that are coming. Let's start getting these people trained in these areas so we can pull our own talent from our own country. And that's going to be a big push is once that kind of that basic education starts to happen, that's where I'd say the excitement starts, the curiosity
Hmm,
kicks in of people in the region because you want them curious. It's like, oh, I really need to prepare now, right? Because a lot of people in PQC is really the early footprint in my opinion, into the quantum space because that's what needs to be focused on now. That's what all countries are pushing for from a regulatory standpoint. Even the US has started really pushing down on companies being PQC ready. But that's going to be the focus over the next 2 to 4 to 5 years as you roll into how do we get this up and rolling, and at the same time bring in the talent and saying, hey, here's where we need to be focused. Here's where it is focused on now. Not everybody's going to just jump into working with a quantum computer. It's like, no, our just need now, the problem solving is PQC, right? How do we get people prepared for that or started early enough, even when they're focused so much on AI, right?
hmm,
Because
hmm.
that's the challenge, right? Because everyone, you bring up quantum and a lot of people, and they're still like, no, I'm so focused on AI. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But understanding quantum and AI will eventually be attached to their hip. So it's preparing them early. It's like, that's great. You should be knowing about AI, but you know what? Emerging tech moves very, very fast now, faster than ever before. And quantum is really moving at a pace that for a lot of people, it's scary because it will be faster than AI. And if you're not preparing way earlier than normal for an emerging tech, it's going to be scary to try and adopt it in a way when it's moving faster. So the earlier you start preparing in that aspect for countries or even for the talent pools, it helps them prepare earlier so they're not overwhelmed or drinking from a fire hose.
Right, right. And now to the last one, before I take your final comments. Probably there's something you really want to say, but we didn't touch it. So I'm going to ask the last one before you get to say that. So you saw the room, you felt the signal, and if AQC acts on this in the next 90 days, that's within the next 3 months, what should we do institutionally first so that we are not merely reacting to Europe's agenda, but shaping an African posture on quantum security?
I think it's really getting the right decision makers and players and policy makers in the same room to have that discussion, right? And it takes that. It takes the government side, the private side to start saying, hey, where do we start, right? Where do we start our own regulatory standards? And maybe it is, it's not like reinventing the wheel because I say now, quantum is a team sport, right? You
Hmm,
have to rely on other people or other countries that are already advancing in different areas that, hey, what can we leverage that they've already done that we can implement in this same strategy, right? Where we're not figuring it out and understanding that, hey, we can leverage some things from the UA, some things, some standards from the US, some standards from Asia Pacific, and going, hey, let's start implementing some of these things in our policy and then reshape it for our demographics, right? But it starts with that conversation where you have to have the right people in the room to say, where do we want to start? And if we had a roadmap for the next 90 days, what are the first hurdles we have to, is it talent, is it decision makers, is it startup companies that are already doing something in quantum? Let's start there, right? And start small, right? It's crawl, walk, run. Like, let's crawl first, let's get the understanding, let's walk, and then bring everybody in. But I think that's the initial thing because it's not going to be a quick thing, right? This is a big conversation and it's a very geopolitical space where everyone now in the quantum space is running to try to be advanced or be leaders in this space to set the regulatory requirements that could be adopted globally, right? So the first ones that are really setting the policies in place, whoever comes in later after that, it's already too late. They're not at the table to give their input. Those policies are going to start to be in place.
right. Now your last thoughts on something that should be re-echoed that we've not asked here.
I'm sorry, what was that question again?
Yeah, some last thoughts on things that are worth re-echoing. I mean, those we didn't really ask, but you think they are worth putting out there.
Sure. I think really, I mean, from a holistic approach is really understanding that be open to reach out to people internationally to ask for insight, support, education, because I think those collaborations are and those relationship building are going to be very strategic as things advance. Knowing who to reach out to that are experts in PQC, who's already done things, who's already implemented in certain countries, also the challenges they're having that you can kind of avoid, right? So building those very strong relationships on a global level are going to be very important for a lot of people in countries and governments of saying, hey, we don't know this all yet. It's still new to a lot of us, but understanding that it is moving fast. And if we're not understanding where the ecosystem is moving, who's doing what, who's already got experience, right, in these areas that we can trust their insight. Because a lot of people are going to come to the market and we have the conversation with a lot of people. They're seeing people move into the market that really don't know what they're doing with PQC, but they're positioning themselves as people that know what they can do. And that's going to be the challenge, right? Of understanding who can validate that this company or this vendor can actually deliver on what they're telling us, right? Because that's going to be a very important thing early on to understand that for a lot of people. So aligning with the right strategic partners, relationships, and building that trust, right? And that ecosystem. So when you start to grow, right? AQC starts to grow, they know they have the right industry people involved with them to support. Hey, should we be going this direction? Some people are like, no, you know what? That was tried over in this area already. It doesn't work. You might want to tweak it, right? So really being open to that, right? I know everybody wants to leave the space, but be open to those relationships and stop proactively reaching out to them.
Right, right, right. So I wouldn't want to move on further, even though I would have wanted to continue with this. So John, thank you very much for the AQC. The tax is clear, turning these insights into posture programs and into initiatives to run internally and with partners as you're suggesting. Thank you very much for these insights, and we are deeply, deeply grateful.
No, thank you. I appreciate you asking me to be on today.
Right. Have a great day. Thank you.